captains being the focus of the first bans, but I'm curious to see what Qlash want to focus here.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of different directions that you can go this way. I'm wondering if maybe they continue to focus on the captains and try and get a captain as first pick. They are going to do so and get that Arden onto Disowned. And we talked about the echo changes, the fact that you can't make those double gauntlet plays as frequently as you used to be able to in update 2.9, but that didn't really seem to stop them in the previous series. They were still looking for those double gauntlet plays pretty consistently. Vox going to be taken by Norm Pacani. That's something that is Qlash definitely would have liked to have had saved for themselves, but this is Norm Pacani doing their homework, taking the Vox away, and then banning the Black Feather, which has been something else that has been played pretty heavily through Series 1.
Yeah, it certainly had been, but it's going to be taken off the board this time around. And that Vox is taken away, as you mentioned before. It's kind of a comfort pick removed from Vasili's hero pool, but we've seen that he is expanding that hero pool. We saw him play the Baron to great success earlier. Obviously, Kestrel in that pool as well, but Kestrel we haven't seen just yet on 2.10. So curious to see where they go with this one. And now, second ban for Qlash. Still a lot on the table that could be banned away here.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of ways that they can go with this. It is going to be the Petal taken off the board, so now you have to wonder, will Krull be a priority pick for Norm Pacani? Because obviously a Petal ban usually indicates that a team would like to go for a Krull or something else with that melee. And Norm Pacani said, you know what? If you're going to ban away the Petal, we're going to be the ones that are proactive with it and take the Krull away. So this feels like Norm Pacani is really trying to focus on just taking away what Qlash is looking to do. But this all could have been a bait. Qlash could have said, you know what? Let's ban away the Petal because they'll then pick the Krull in response. So it'll be interesting to see if Qlash has an answer for this. It is going to be a Baron for one, and that definitely can work quite well into the Krull and Vox. Krull gets onto you as a Baron, you just jump jets away, and all of a sudden he can't continue to get those weakness stacks built up. So a lot of potential for outplays there. And now this last pick, if they just go for something that can kind of share with a little bit more sustained damage, Batiste I think works quite well here. That definitely feels to me like they baited out that Krull pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't have minded seeing a Samuel, honestly. You've got Agony on your squad. You can do some excellent work kiting away that Krull, and you can do a good job against Krull in the early game as well. But the disengage coming out from the Batiste is certainly going to be a nice thing to have during those later game team fights to try and protect that Baron. And it definitely feels like everybody going to be focusing on Masilis in this game. Qlash looking to protect him, whereas Norm Pacani going to be looking to try and take him out. But it is going to be the Rhyme final pickup with a Krull captain coming on through here.
I mean, that's the only way that I feel it makes sense. I don't mind the Krull captain all that much because so many players build this Krull to only have one offensive item in the first place. So you're basically playing him like a glorified captain anyway. So it's not that bad of a deal to go for the Captain Krull. But the Rhyme pick is still a little bit iffy to me just because of what it's up against. Like, Rhyme can't chase down a Baron terribly effectively. Rhyme can struggle against what the side of Qlash has brought to the table here, and I think Vasili's absolutely going to be the key factor in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Qlash are definitely going to be trying to protect Vasili's during these fights, but it's going to be about how well this Rhyme can do during the early game, during the jungle. How is that jungle matchup going to be panning out? Rhyme versus Batiste, is there a significant advantage there?
It's not a significant advantage. I think both definitely have their strengths. But I feel like the Batiste should have a slight edge just because the sustain is there, whereas Rhyme has the fortified health that makes him very durable. The Batiste can, go into a fight, trade back and forth, and then sustain back up and be in a slightly better position. So if in the initial skirmish, Rhyme has the advantage, but if things kite through a jungle for a while, all of a sudden it starts to swing a little bit towards Batiste.
All right, we'll see if they can kite this on through and how long these fights are going to be going on across the course of this series. Don't forget to get in touch on social media and let us know who you guys at home are supporting. We're going to be going into this best of 5 between Qlash and Norm Pacani. And you've got to bear in mind, Norm Pacani with a first seed coming out from the European Challengers. This is a team that they have a lot of pressure on their shoulders and they are now against the ropes. Qlash, they've managed to survive the pressure so far, as they've gone 3-1 in their most previous series, but they have an entire best of 5 ahead of them here against Norm Pacani. It's time for me to pass it over to Jaws and Dowsy and get on into this second best of 5.
Thanks, guys. Once again, best of 5 time, but this time it is Qlash versus Norm Pacani. Now, Qlash have got yet another chance to vie for that position in the VG8, but Norm Pacani, like Munch put it, #1 seed, Dowsy, coming out of the VGL, beating out Team Queso, a team that we pegged as one of the strongest teams. But now it's Norm Pacani down in this loser bracket and coming up against Qlash, who we've already seen so many a variety of strategies coming out of them today. This, however, is not one I'd think to see for a long time. Norm Pacani actually taking that crawl into the captain position.
Yeah, this is something that we see every now and again, and I love this rotation coming out of Norm Pacani as well. Cruel can easily secure this front tree, and there's almost no way he doesn't, so he snipes that away. They get the middle Elder Treant for themselves, and then they can rotate towards the backs. Because of the double jungle start from Qlash, very standard in the current meta, there is not going to be a level 2 come out of the Batiste or the Baron, which means they can't teamfight or even invade, so it's a very take everything and get away with it kind of start here. Norm Pacani are jungle masters. This week in the VGL challenge battles earlier on the Vainglory League, we actually had a record set, Jaws, for the quickest Crystal Sentry elimination in competitive history at 7 minutes 48, and it was set by Luga, who was playing Petal up against I can't remember who it was against. It must have been against Calamity Reborn. It was. And so that is pretty impressive stuff. When it comes to jungle, Luga is a dominant force, and with a Cruel by his side, almost all of these camps are pretty much going to be Norm Pacani's.
There's to take. Jiraxxus going fairly low. Does pop the flask. The healing can does go over to Disowned of all. Oh no, Jiraxxus of all people. Agony going very low as well. Traps Luga in the Ordained for the time being, but Jiraxxus willing to take the fight to him. Force the flask pop as well. Jiraxxus and Luga just punishing Agony's jungle right now. In fact, smites that one away as well. Agony not having the greatest of times right now. Traps Luga in the Ordained once again, but it is Jiraxxus and Luga with the commanding lead in the early stages of the game, even staying for more. How greedy can you get? Luga will show you how greedy you can get. Yeah, there you go.
Agony secured all of those. So Agony actually secured his entire jungle there, which is pretty surprising against a Rhyme and a Cruel, but they might just be able to find a kill regardless.
Disowned's going to pop the flask to stay alive. The Ordained kept them in position for the time being, but Jiraxxus and Luga undeterred. Agony does have the bad mojos racking up, however, and Luga is very, very low in terms of energy, although Agony is very, very low in terms of health. Bad mojos are slowing up. He actually used the Ordained and Boots to be able to get a bit of distance, and now this long extended engagement is going to continue going as Jiraxxus and Luga just push and push them in time and time again. It should just be Disowned going down here. No defensive spells available, but the smite wasn't quite enough. But Jiraxxus hops on the surfboard. That'll be the kill. Finally going over to Norm Pacani, securing.
You know who won this? Surprisingly, Jaws, it looks like this is Norm Pacani bullying Qlash, but Qlash have actually won this in such a huge way. Like mentioned, Agony actually managed to secure his entirety of the back camps, and now he's gone and stolen 2 camps away from the Rhyme, and he gets away scot-free. He's going to go back and secure his backs if Jiraxxus wasn't there. Currently doing the opposite of that, so at least it's going to be a trade coming on through. Looks like he secured the back camp as well as the front treant, so it was traded, but still, this is a massive win for Agony. Currently not even feeling the threat of the Rhyme and the Cruel as at the moment, which is huge for Qlash. If this Batiste is allowed to scale up, become a threat towards the side of Norm Pacani, and particularly the Vox, realistically, then it makes this Baron very, very healthy, very, very safe in these team fights. He has an Ardent for the Vanguards, the Batiste puts the Ordained down, stops either the Rhyme or the Vox getting on top of him. And then there's always a Fearsome Shade to come on through. Clockwork means that you can have multiple Fearsome Shades in a very long team fight. Not that you often get long team fights with a Baron because he bursts everyone down so quickly, but Norm Pacani, their jungle aggression failed, and this is huge for Qlash.
Mercedes, we've already seen what you can do on the Baron. I mean, was this a secret pocket pick for him all along? It seems so. Only really played Kestrel on the Vox throughout VGL, and now finally pulling out something different, and he's been just performing wonderfully on it. Although a little bit behind on CS right now, Zoom has been pushing him in more often than not, and the pressure will be mounting as well as Jiraxis inches closer and closer to that level 6 mark. Same with Luga, who again we pegged him as this very aggressive jungler, and that stat you brought up earlier about the quickest competitive Crystal Sentry elimination time, that's because he was taking them off spawn, mind you, as well. They were literally camping and waiting for the Crystal Sentry to actually spawn, and then killing it before it even got to mine anything.
Yeah, so Norm Pisani, they have a lot of power in the jungle, and this is something that European teams very typically have always been very bad at, is their jungle aggression, but not Norm Pisani.
Oh, Agony's going to go straight down if he's not careful. Crystal Sentry's going to interject, but Jiraxis is going to chase him up, and in fact, Luga's decided, I'm going to go for the record once again, Dowsy, focusing on that Crystal Sentry. Jiraxis hasn't got boots, he has got Flask, he's got everything in terms of healing, and there's the final engagement. The Ordain wasn't enough. Agony, who blew the boots and the Flask a lot earlier in the fight, ends up going down.
Well, it always feels bad when the roam takes you out, but Cruel is actually really good into Batiste. It kind of seems counterintuitive because Batiste has an Ordained, he has Fearsome Shade. You'd think that Batiste would be able to deal with Cruel because of those reasons, but he actually isn't, because they both require to be very close in melee range to win the team fights, and that's where the Cruel dominates. So a roam Cruel can do a lot of damage regardless of the fact that he doesn't build many damaged items. Once we do get to the late game though, and this Batiste is fully online, then he's going to have a lot of impact.
Nice block from Zoom on the Ordained, and the wait for it does come out as well to stop any further engagement. Jiraxis being also annoying right now, just tagging Mercillies and just shoving him under the tower. It's like poking a bear with a stick. I see this kind of matchup. You're looking in the face of a level 6 Baron. He was level 4 when that was happening. He can fire rockets to your face, but Jiraxis continuing there, poking him with the surfboard time and time again. It's like, do something, do something, do something, because I've got Zoom to back me up, and Luga the same. Valkyrie does come out, it slows him up, and they're just going to go for the dive here, Dowsy. Iron Cannon is going to come through to actually stop Jiraxis going any further. Zoom took a fair bit of damage as well, but fairly short cooldown is the ultimate. Even this early stage of the game, only at 67 seconds now, they're going to want to utilize that off cooldown, you can imagine.
Yeah, because of the pressure they put onto the jungle, it means that Agony is kind of locked there if he wants to get any CS and he wants to get any farm. So Norm Pisani are kind of free to rain down in the lane here. They push the turret down to very low HP, but they also go very low in the process. Jiraxis really wants the back. He has a fountain available to him, but he's still trying his best. Now the counter push is going to come out of Qlash, and they might be able to just pick up this turret for free.
They should be able to. Agony's got Ordained up as well, so that'll be Mercillies doing the majority of that damage. A couple of bad mojos as well will secure the first turret of the game.
So one thing that Norm Pisani do really well, Jaws, is that they are hyper-aggressive in the jungle. One of the most aggressive European teams I've ever seen. And, you know, it's quite impressive considering they were in the Challenger League before this. But their dominance of converting jungle pressure into lane pressure is fairly poor, actually. The impressive thing about the world record that was set this week between Norm Pisani and Calamity Reborn of fastest Crystal Sentry elimination, that's all 3 lives taken, was that Luga dominated the jungle. He was level 8 whilst his opponent was just turning level 5, so he had roughly a 4 to 3 level advantage over his opponent, which is obscene in competitive play. But there was a Celeste in the lane, and it was Apfel Celeste of all Celestes, and it did not get touched. They didn't focus on the lane, they didn't stop the laner from scaling, and ultimately Calamity was able to come back. So that's the even more impressive thing, was Calamity's mental fortitude to just know that realistically their jungler wasn't going to be the win condition. It was all about this Celeste that Apfel plays so well. And so this is something that Norm Pisani need to be very careful of, is a hyper-aggression in the jungle sometimes puts them in positions where they think they're far stronger than they realistically are because the laner is scaling. And currently Mercillies is the laner that wants to scale.
Ordain comes out of Fearsome Shade as well. It's going to hit 3. Disowned actually gets his gauntlet cancelled by that Fearsome Shade, but they already annihilate Agony. They're going to follow that up with a kill on Mercillies as well. As soon as they latch onto one target, Dowsy, they refuse to let go. They find themselves 2 kills, and that could be a dead turret as well.
It's actually amazing to see a Valkyrie cancel out a gauntlet of all things. That was pretty much just a mistake coming out of Disown to use it in such a poor place. 2 turrets now for them. They get themselves 2 kills as well. Norm Pisani have learned from their mistakes earlier this week, Jaws, against Calamity, they are converting their jungle aggression into lane pressure, which is exactly what you need to do against the Baron. 9 minutes in, they've taken 2 turrets off this Baron. They've taken a Crystal Sentry Life as well, I believe. They've got a jungler who is scaling far quicker than the opposite jungler, though Agony's doing fairly well for himself despite the fact that the jungle aggression came through because he was able to secure so many camps in the jungle invades. Let's look at Jiraxis' build. He hasn't even got himself any attack speed. Normally we see a Blazing Salvo at least come out of a Captain Cruel just so he can get those weakness stacks on, because that's what Captain Cruel does so well. He has this stun that comes from Hell's Heart, and he also is a weakness stacks to a priority target, primarily Baron in this game. It's going to be a contest.
Gold miner contest. Yeah, Valkyrie only stuns Vasilis. That's actually going to be a steal. He is stolen away by Agony. He manages to get a bad mojo at the end to secure it. He does go down for it, but that's a net gold advantage there for Qlash.
Yeah, this is Norm Pisani. They don't know what to do. They really need to just jump into the jungle now and try and take down that Crystal Sentry. Because they got the kill onto the Batiste, they need to take something away at least. I don't think a front treant is enough, but Draxus will get that for himself. Really unfortunate to lose that that gold miner like that, but that is the power of Batiste. He has the Fearsome Shade. He can stop the smite coming through from the Cruel. If you don't block it up with a Crucible, like we just saw, then that is going to put this very short-range composition at threat, and Batiste is really good into those scenarios just due to the fact that Fearsome Shade is such an impactful ability. Considering that Agony has a Baron by his side, this is the kind of game that you pick up Echo on the Batiste jungle. Normally you need that Broken Myth because you have to output some damage because your carry pick may not have enough damage to deal with the entirety of the enemy team. And he might still go Broken Myth considering the fact that they are super tanky on the opposite side, so he definitely wants to be able to output some damage. But double Fearsome Shades will be very impactful in this game, and so it could be a consideration of Agony at least.
Vasilis now is at this build and at the stage of the game where Norm Pisani should be fairly scared. 2 monocles, he's got the Sorrow Blade as well. He is going to be hitting like a truck. And right now, Zoom hasn't got all too much armor to his name. He's only got the 1 item, although you can imagine that's going to be the only one he's going to get, but it feels like you're going to need a whole lot more, especially when Vasilis comes up and double taps you. And it's going to be a gauntlet going down, in fact. No real engagement just yet, although the Agony and the Fearsome Shade, in fact, on the Ordain on Luger, just stuns him up and actually just sends him to base. And that was a bit of a weird engagement. I thought Norm Pisani were going to go in there. Maybe that, again, speaks to their just inability to convert their early game leads, because they just were not able to actually collapse on that. As is actually now a collapse straight onto Jiraxis. Vasilis sends a couple of rockets his way. Agony should be able to finish it off with a bad mojo. Vasilis jumps over the wall with those jump jets. Zoom in a lot of trouble as to back underneath his turret as Vasilis just chunks him a little bit more. 5-1. It definitely doesn't seem that way. Qlash with the advantage.
Yeah, Qlash is just dominating, and that's going to be Luger in threat here. Doesn't have a reflex block, but they're re-engaging.
From Hell's Heart was blocked up though, Dowsy, and that'll be Zoom taking a big iron cannon, dashing forward straight into the Ordained. Big Valkyrie as well was used from Jiraxis. They don't quite find Vasilis. Jiraxis just cannot find the way on to the back line. There is no way for him to actually engage. That Valkyrie wasn't even on cooldown, so Luger wasn't even able to use that to stun him up. This is disowned, protecting Vasilis like he should, and Vasilis just not being touched at all.
And Vasilis is very safe, and really the combination to land onto a Baron is very difficult. That they haven't really drafted a composition here, Norm Pisani, that it is a typical Baron takedown composition. Normally you want some form of high mobility assassin to dive on in, or you want some extra range to be able to try and poke the Baron. So, you know, Celestes, Black Feathers, Idrises, typically what you see in these scenarios. But right now they have a very low-range composition, and that's pretty good for Baron. He's level 12. He has his max attack range because he's overdriven his ultimate, and so he can outrange the entirety of the Norm Pisani roster. Just imagine a man with really long arms holding his arm out to someone's face and saying, "No, you can't hit me." Well, that's basically what the Qlash roster is. And then they have the Fearsome Shades, the Gauntlets as well, to just continuously push the Norm Pisani roster back. So Norm Pisani rely on vision. They need to try and creep up on someone. They need to try and find sneaky ultimates, stuns. it's very difficult for them to do so, especially considering that Zoom is forced to go 3 damage items as well, and he hasn't even got a breaking point online because he's prioritized defense as well. The Vox's damage is going to be very low, and right now we've got a really, really big window of opportunity for Qlash to just take the game win.
Jaraxxus, he finds his way onto Mercilli's, but jump jets will lead him to safety, and Iron Cannon straight in the middle of that gauntlet was good, but that From Hell's Heart was even better. Mercilli gets stunned up, another jump jet straight onto Luger, just executes him. Now it's a 2v3 with Agony, and Mercilli's left completely alone in the back line. Jaraxxus gets found out, he gets stiffed out. Agony just finding the picks where he can. Ordain locks him in place, and that'll be Zoom now, just trying to complete the impossible, but another Ordain will stun him up. Mercilli's a little bit too low to just have to back off. Zoom might win it. He is fairly low, however. Agony got sent fairly low as well, but Qlash with the overall win, they decide to disengage, or in fact maybe look for something more here. Zoom should use those boots to get out, although an Ordain will lock him in place. That is going to be a reflex block used to try and get out of it, but those bad mojos are just stacking up and stacking up. Luger's now re-entered the fight here. Dowsy, Crucible on the route, and he ends up finding the kill just with the damage over time, but Mercilli's has returned and the damage should come through. Valkyrie stuns him up, but he's still got jump jets available, does get some distance, but here comes the From Hell's Heart. Dowsy, this fight's not over just yet as they finally kill Mercilli's. After 2 people respawning, they do manage to take out the Baron.
I mean, these fights are long. I said that they were going to be long engagements, but I didn't expect them to be through double death timers their jaws. What a mistake coming out of Qlash. They just threw away their massive advantage. They just gave Norm Pisani every chance possible to come back into this game, and come back into this game they're going to do here. Oh my goodness, Zoom's ability to stay alive in that last team fight was incredible. Although, you noticed that he was auto-attacking for a long time. Imagine if he had a breaking point. That would have been a clear-out team fight win for the side of Norm Pisani due to the amazing CC that they're starting to get out, and just the failed blocks coming out from Mercilli. He now has that reflex block. He's prioritized it before his last damage item, which I believe will be a tornado trigger. Agony's been spotted. He's been stopped on his backport as well, so this is even worse for Qlash.
This is exactly not what Qlash wanted. The Mercedes had to stay alive throughout the entire engagement, and he did. It was just the respawns coming out from Norm Pisani that really hindered him. Now the Kraken is marching on their base. The base turret will get broken as well. Valkyrie came down from Luger, didn't quite hit him. A gauntlet does come out as well. Luger trapped in place, same with Zoom. Mercedes gets a wait for it used on him, silencing him for the time being, but he just wants to be able to basic attack. Zoom's got way too much damage and way too much defenses to actually stay alive in this fight. If he's not careful, turret is almost going to take him out. Luger's now on the front line, but they are going to be able to crack one of those Vein Crystal turrets. The next one is going to come down pretty sharply as well, because all the meanwhile, by the way, there's a 1v1, and Mercedes, Jaraxxus and Agony are going to find the kill, and that's going to be an ace actually coming through for Qlash. This game is not over just yet. The turret will go down eventually. Oh my god, what is going on?
3 turrets taken because Jaraxxus found Agony out of position. Holy moly, Qlash with throw after throw in this game. Yes, they get the ace in the end, but what did they lose for it? Literally everything. There is backdoor opportunities now available for Norm Pisani. They all only have to win a team fight, and by win a team fight, I mean kill Baron. That's literally all they have to do. If they kill Baron and 3 of them survive, they win the game. Who would have thought that was possible considering how dominant Qlash were up until the 14-minute mark? But double throw comes through, and this door is wide open. Qlash have just allowed Norm Pisani to come back on in. Jaraxxus making some godlike plays. So has Zoom as well. I can't believe that this has happened, considering that Qlash, such a team that over the last couple of weeks, especially in Vainglory8 play, they have found their place in the top tier of competitive. They've been winning games. They pushed themselves so far, and getting to semi-final after semi-final. Almost escaped the challenge battle zone, but right now Norm Pisani, this team that just no one expected to do so well, are finding opportunities that they probably shouldn't have, and they're taking them with eager hands.
Well, I would say first seed for a reason, Dowsy. Seems like this cruel captain pick was what they needed. It was quite enough for them to at least have an advantage over Qlash for the time being. However, the next team fight should near or nearabouts decide the game. We're going to have to see what happens, because Mercedes is on 4 items now, 4 damaging items, picking up that tornado trigger as his last. He is going to be hitting even more like a truck now, Dowsy. It's going to be hitting like 2 trucks. And that
Doom
Kraken is
is
now being on the board.
200 gold away from finishing his breaking point. He should be able to get it off this minion wave here and then backport and finish off his breaking point. Yep, he has the gold now. This is huge. There is no armor on Mercilles, so if Zoom stacks up his breaking point, then it is going to hurt this Baron. And we've seen that Zoom's Vox is incredible. He has been accused of being a one-trick Vox, just like Mercilles. Here's the team fight.
The wait for it is avoided. The Gauntlet comes down to separate Mercilles. The Fist
Oh, wow.
as well did scare them away, but Zoom already gets deleted. Valkyrie and From Hell's Heart does land onto the Baron, but he uses those jump jets to secure some distance once again. Luger, oh, I'm dying here. Luger is having a 1v1 with Jiraxxus once more and finds the bad mojo kill. Qlash, they may have just done it here, Dowsy. Zoom instantly got killed at the start of the team fight, left Luger completely alone and wondering what happened. Qlash are going to now secure the Kraken.
Yeah, they are going to secure the Kraken here, Jaws, and that was just really unfortunate. Very late Fountain came out, and Mercilles perhaps a little bit too eager to try out his breaking point there. Didn't really have time to stack it, and Luger wasn't able to get onto the back line due to a really awkward Treant route that came through that just wasn't blocked up by Jiraxxus or his allies either. They do have reflex boxes of their own. Luger's damage is actually fairly minimal. He hasn't gone Dragon's Eye. These fights last such a long time, and so he just isn't doing much. He doesn't have a broken myth either, so he's not piercing anyone. Luger's build is pretty far behind because he's had to prioritize so much defense. Mind you, next team fight still can dictate game for Norm Pisani, but it will also potentially dictate game for Qlash as well. An ace comes out, either team wins.
Well, here we go. Kraken's now going to march on Norm Pisani's base. Mercilles doing so much damage to these turrets. It was only a matter of time, really, before it went down. Ordain's going to get blocked. Jiraxxus is going to escape that one for the time being. But that Kraken, only about half HP here, Dowsy, and Qlash look hesitant to actually jump on it. They're actually going to leave it here. Two turrets now stand in their way of the victory. Didn't have the confidence to push into the base. Thought it was better off they just back off, secure some vision, even in fact secure this Crystal Sentry, and just make sure they can properly secure the victory if they so choose. Well, if they so choose. It's not like they can choose yes or no, but if they can in the next fight or so.
No, it's wise for Qlash to back off there, considering the fact that all ultimates were still up for Norm Pisani. They would have had to fight under 2 Vein Crystal turrets, which just odds stacked up against Qlash, and considering the amount of times that the odds were with them and they lost team fights, it's probably best that they don't risk any chances right now. Getting closer and closer to Luger, having some damage in him. He's going to go back. He's going to complete his Aegis. Doesn't quite have the gold, though, to get anything else, which is fairly unfortunate, because even if he just picked up the Piercing Shard, it would be having far more effect. In 2.10, the Piercing, on just Piercing Shard alone, got buffed, and so it's pretty impactful. Great block. That's a gauntlet used and not executed on. Disowned does have the chance to activate his Echo now if he wants to. Keep it ongoing, but it looks like he's trying his best just to hold on to his Echo, and Qlash are going to just spend this next 40 seconds not team fighting so that they can get the double gauntlet combo back up. What Norm Pisani would do if they were able to is engage a team fight now, because without that gauntlet they have far better chances to get in, and this gauntlet's not going to be available for 25 seconds. The Echo capability is now lost, so they're looking for the fight.
Yeah, was used on the Vanguard instead, and now Mercilles gets jumped on. There's the boost from Jiraxxus trying to get some distance from Hell's Heart. Can it ricochet? Can it boomerang? Valkyrie came down, Dowsy, but it didn't hit. Fearsome Shade onto 3 people. Mercilles dives forward. He manages to pick a kill up on Jiraxxus. Now Luger going extremely low. He's in a 1v4 with that Crystal Sentry hammering away at him as well. This could be game. This could be Qlash taking game number 1 in this series. Zoom's the only one left.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. They had the perfect opportunity to win a team fight, and Jiraxxus wasn't quite able to execute on a very difficult hero to make work as well. The Cruel, it is very good in the early game, but in the late game being a Captain Cruel is very difficult. And Jiraxxus just wasn't quite able to make the dots connect. He needed to Crucible that Fearsome Shade. He needed to land his From Hell's Heart onto the Baron. Just neither of those things came through. And now it is another Kraken in the hands of the side of Qlash. 20 seconds on Luger. They are going to get a chance to fight over this Kraken. And theoretically, Norm Pisani, if they get the ace that they want, they could still finish the game. But it's going to be very difficult for them.
Kraken only has to shoot through 2 turrets, Dowsy. And that is going to be a tall order for Norm Pisani to actually defend. We've seen how much damage Mercilli's does. If they can repeat that last team fight, and they've got all the cooldowns to do so, it will land Qlash with the win. But the same can be said for Norm Pisani. If they take out the Kraken and destroy Qlash, it's going to be a game win for them as well, because they have no turrets to actually kill. They've only got that Vein Crystal. Oh, Funhouse Heart does land. There's the gauntlet though. The Valkyrie's going to come down, stun 3 people. Ion Cannon's going to delete Zoom in the back behind, but he ends up surviving. Another gauntlet comes out from Disown. Mercilli's repositions himself towards Luger. And now it is Jiraxis on the front line. Zoom went back to base to get a bit of HP. The Water Raids have been popped from the side of Qlash. They do find the route, but an Ordain does lock Luger in place. Cannot advance. Qlash are perfectly kiting this composition away while the Kraken is still just chewing away at the base of Norm Pisani. The Fearsome Shade was good. It manages to kill Luger, and Zoom's going down really low as well. That'll be Mercilli's and Agony just trying to fight this team fight at 2v1. Jiraxis is going to fall. Qlash find the ace, and they're going to find game number 1.
Impressive stuff coming out of Qlash. Really tighten the screws on their game here, Jaws, and put it all together. Their composition was always in a favorable position to beat out what Norm Pisani drafted, but man, Norm Pisani, they're a wild card team. They have so many tricks up their sleeve, and teams continuously underestimate their ability to just dominate team fights. It's unreal. Norm Pisani really gave Qlash a run for their money in this game. Up against the all odds, they managed to bring it to a 25-minute affair. That really speaks volumes to Norm Pisani's strength as well. Considering this is a best of 5, Qlash better have some good mental fortitude.
Yeah, Norm Pisani as well, like you said, can't be underestimated. They still have these pocket picks like this Captain Krull. However, it got to late game and Qlash were able to just bring it. Agony, Mercilli's, they have the damage, they've got the cooldowns, the ability to throw out at least 2 Fearsome Shades in a team fight without echo if the team fights last long enough. Pretty devastating devastating situation Norm Pisani we're in. Qlash take game number 1, but we'll throw it over to the analyst desk where they can break down the game even more.
Thank you very much, guys. Qlash apparently just needed a singular game in the first series to warm up, and now they are on a roll. And I think we have to talk about the fact that this Baron for Mercilli's suddenly feels like a comfort pick.
Yeah, finally showing that he has more in the arsenal besides the 2 heroes that we had seen previously from him. And that's something that's really good and really assuring for a Qlash fan to see, that he's able to bring out more picks to the table and still have strong performances.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had a phenomenal performance so far in this series, but Norm Pisani cannot be counted out just yet. This is a full best of 5, so the singular game less important than what we usually see in the Vainglory8. We have a few highlights from this game as well, and things started off with a couple of double kills coming on through onto the board. And, you know, once again, we saw Pisani starting things off strong in this series, but it was later on in the game Qlash managed to get online.
Yeah, the start for Norm Pisani was very, very strong. They were able to get their damage onto the 2 carries reliably and consistently. And, you know, at this point in the game, Disowned wasn't able to really protect his team as much as you would like an Arden to be able to do. And so Agony and Mercilli's were just being focused down and being beaten straight up in the 1v1s and the 2v2s that were coming through. So you have to give a lot of credit to Norm Pisani, and if you're Qlash, you know, you can't get complacent off of the win, because Norm Pisani was bringing the fight to you very aggressively.
Yeah, absolutely. They were being incredibly aggressive across the course of the game, but unfortunately, the longer the game went on, the less that aggression was working out for them. Our next replay was an ace coming out from Qlash as they defended their base against the siege from Pacani.
Yeah, and in this one, it was obviously with the Kraken pushing in, becomes a very difficult situation. But Krull and Batiste kind of in this 1v1 going on by the jungle shop made it so that the Krull wasn't involved. And when you don't have your captain involved in a fight, it becomes that much more difficult. Obviously, yes, you have plenty of damage, but if you can't lock down that kill, like they weren't able to take Mercilli's down in this trade, all of a sudden they find themselves in a situation where they have to back away and they have to get themselves out of the enemy base and can't just finish off the game. And you have to wonder if Krull was able to get to them, if he was able to get across the map and join his teammates, would this have been a different story? Would this have potentially even been the end of the game?
That is one of the big questions, and honestly, it looked like Norm Pisani could have finished things out a little bit later on in the game there. It looked like with an open Vein Crystal, maybe that was their opportunity, but unfortunately was not the case. And then back-to-back Krakens came out from Qlash and that led to Qlash taking the game in the end. And we have a replay of this final fight.
And this was, at this point, the Baron was fully online. And one of the things that Jaws touched on is the fact that all of a sudden you have this Batiste able to stick around in fights long enough to get out multiple fearsome shades during the course of a single fight. The From Hell's Hearts were not landing on the priority targets. That time it got onto, or it just didn't get onto the Baron. That's the key. If the From Hell's Heart doesn't hit Baron, all of a sudden you're not able to lock him down. You can see throughout this entire fight, Mercedes is full health pretty much all the way throughout. They finally start to get onto him a little bit towards the end here, but right now Kraken is in their base. Kraken is destroying their turrets, and members of Qlash, they don't need to all in this fight. They just have to continue kiting and prevent their opponents from being able to find the kills, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic stuff coming out from Qlash. And we saw a lot of Qlash's victories so far today have been based off of their team fighting once we get to the later stages of the game. It's not just been about, you know, putting your foot down in the early game and snowballing to a victory, which is what we see a lot of the better teams across the world. That's typically the playstyle. Qlash is very much a matter of, we're fine to concede some of this early game, but then later on, once we get some items, our coordination is good enough that we can make sure to win out these team fights, and that's how they've been successful so far.
Yeah, it's a very risky strategy. It's one of the reasons why they're in the challenge battles, is because against top teams, that isn't necessarily going to work, because the top teams will be able to punish that early game and say, you know what, you're going to give us this little bit, we're going to take even more and continue to push the issue against you. Whereas against teams, you know, down in the challenge battles, in challengers, they know that they can have that strength and be like, and can concede that enough and then say, okay, we are just a stronger team when it comes to team fighting though, and we can still win the game from there. But it's something that going forward, they're definitely going to have to improve upon, because otherwise they will always be fighting for their lives.
I have to ask as well, Non Pacani obviously came in as the first seed from the European Challengers, and it's curious to me that obviously everyone was expecting Queso to be that first seed. That was the touted favorite coming on in, but Non Pacani managed to get the first seed anyway. What was it that they did to surprise people coming on into the tournament? What was it that put them that extra little bit ahead?
I think a lot of it was just the fact that they were so strong in the early game. This is a team that has been strong in the early game, and they're able to get these early leads and then close it out. And that's one of the things that a lot of teams struggle with, is being able to actually just close out a game when you have an early lead. Obviously, they weren't quite able to do it here, but they were on the verge of taking that game and not even allowing Qlash to have that big comeback. So I think it was just their early game strength is very, very strong. And if they can find those early leads, then they have the ability to close games out.
And by the looks of things as well, their draft is very strong. Obviously, running with a Captain Crawl during that game was a fantastic way to start the series off for them, because it means that, you know, coming into game number 2, it's very difficult to predict what this team is going to do, because Captain Crawl is not exactly a common pickup here. Is there an expectation of what we're going to see in draft number 2 here? Because across the course of today, in the first best of 5 and the first game of this one, we've seen a multitude of different drafts.
Yeah, there's been so many different strategies that we've seen, and for Norm Pacani, this is another one of their, you know, they have multiple strategies that they bring to the table, but one of them is what we saw in this game of just trying to take away what they feel like their opponent wants to run. You know, they took away the Vox right off the bat. That's one of the big picks for Mercedes. Once the pedal ban comes through, they take the Kroll away and saying, you know, we're not going to let you take that pick that so many teams go for after they ban away the Kroll, or ban away the pedal, excuse me. And so I really like their decision making in the draft to be able to identify what their opponents want and take that away. They don't have to necessarily always focus on what they want out of the draft. They do a lot of focusing on what their opponents are going to want and trying to counter that.
Yeah, trying to play around those opponents and try and kind of counteract those win conditions, as it were. We'll have to see if that continues throughout these draft phases. Just to update you guys, we're having a couple of communication issues with one of the teams, so hopefully that will be resolved very shortly and we'll be able to get into game 2 of this series. But in the meantime, I do want to continue to talk about the draft a little bit more, and especially I want to talk about the jungle role here, because on 2.9, obviously we're on a new update. 2.10 has come on in now, and that's kind of changed things up pretty significantly, it's fair to say. We saw a lot of things like Alpha, a lot of very aggressive, very bruiser-type junglers coming on in 2.9. Has that started to fall out of the meta, or is that just that we haven't seen enough games yet to see those coming into play?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, a lot of teams are kind of moving away from the burst a little bit, that, you know, heavy focus on the early game. but it's also just that we haven't seen enough of 2.10. Teams haven't fully adjusted and adapted to 2.10 yet, so a lot of teams are still focusing on what was strong in 2.9 and sort of seeing what carries over towards 2.10. And as we continue to go on, obviously the meta is going to shift and change. It's going to be what we see here today is going to be, and tomorrow is going to be very different, I expect, from what we see in a month's time in Singapore at Worlds as teams continue to learn and adjust and adapt to the current changes.
Yeah, I expect everything to be changing once we get over to that World Championship. There's a lot on the line when it comes to Worlds, and those teams will have a long time to prepare for the event as well. Can't wait to get on into that World Championship. Now, unfortunately, the issues with communication are continuing for now, so we're going to be jumping into a quick break while everything is resolved, and then we'll get into Game 2 of this best of 5 shortly. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vainglory8 Challenge Battles here in Europe. Obviously, we've had a couple of technical difficulties, but it seems that they have all been resolved now. My name is Morchfools. I'm going to be hosting the show. I'm going to be joined by Tasty Bacon, who is my analyst, and we are currently in our second best of 5. Qlash are 1-0 up in this best of 5 against Pacani.
Yeah, this is a very important matchup. It's elimination matchups all day long, or all weekend long, I should say. It's deciding matchups. This one is going to determine who moves on versus who goes home and has to fight their way through the challengers once again next year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. This has been the end of a long season of challenges. All the teams have been working incredibly hard to get here. We already had Raging Donuts knocked out of the bracket earlier on today, and now we'll see whether Qlash or Pacani is going to be joining them in the challenges and who is going to be moving on to our decider games tomorrow to see who will go into the Vainglory8. But let's start to talk and have a bit of a recap of what happened to start this series off. Qlash are 1-0 up currently. They've done a fantastic job in game number 1. However, they didn't start off the game with a lead. It was Pacani that was controlling the early game.
Yeah, Pacani were very close to taking game number 1 themselves. They put the pressure on. They had a Kraken pushing in. They nearly won the game, but then Qlash was able to stave off that push and build their own defense, get their itemization online, get the Baron to a late game potential that we see so many times with Baron picks, and fight their way back into the game and end up taking it.
And then we've seen that Masilis, this Baron maybe is now a comfort pick for Masilis. He's been looking fantastic on it, but it's time to get on into the draft for game number 2. It's time to kick things off here. And I'm curious to see how these two teams are going to adapt coming in. Now that Pacani is on the A side of the draft, they're going to have to change things up a little bit here. And I'm curious to see what they have up their sleeves to shut down Masilis in this game.
Yeah, definitely. You have to wonder if they're going to focus on Masilis or not here. Now that Masilis has shown that he has a couple other heroes that he's willing and capable of playing at a high level, will that still be where they direct their attention? And using a lot of their bonus time there. Usually when we see that, it's because of an issue with connecting, but they do get the Kroll ban in at the end, so maybe they were just very much deliberating about what direction they wanted to head with this draft.
Absolutely, and Qlash going to start off by banning away the Lyra. It's curious to see that Kroll is the first ban. That's not something we typically see banned at the start of a draft, and that was what we saw them bringing out as a captain last game, but is going to be that Churnwalker locked in.
And Churnwalker was something that we saw Qlash run in Series 1, then it had been banned away ever since, usually by their opposition, but last game Qlash were actually the ones that took it off the board themselves, so now Pacani is going to get a chance to run this hero. Not the newest hero any longer, but still definitely one that we haven't been able to see a ton of just yet.
Yeah, the Black Feather will come on in, and we'll see what the ban will come on through next. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Rona ban at all.
I think you have to ban the Rona at this point. If you're up with the Black Feather pick, the Rona just cannot be allowed to go through against you because it has won against that matchup so many times in the past update or two, so makes a lot of sense to see the Rona ban. Now I'm wondering where Pacani is going to go with the rest of this draft because there's so many different things that we've seen built around the Churnwalker. You know, some teams run the Vox with it. We've seen obviously the Churnwalker and Saw combo be very, very effective as well. But with the Arden takeaway, trying to just pinch the hero pool of the captains a little bit harder. And Qlash still has plenty of options. Obviously, the Lance is there, the Catherine, the Grace, all still available. So they aren't going to be too worried about the fact that Arden was taken off the board.
Lorelei is going to be locked on in here for Qlash. We've seen it played against Qlash. We haven't seen them playing it themselves. So curious to see what that's... First of all, where that is going to go in terms of the team composition, but also how they're going to be able to play it.
I assume it's going to be a captain because with the Black Feather there, if you put it in the lane, all of a sudden now you're going to be looking at a double crystal composition very likely. So it makes sense to me that it would be the captain pick, but that's what we were talking about before we even started this series was, does Qlash have this Lorelei up their sleeves as well? Pacani going to take the Vox and then grab themselves the Batiste as well. So looking for, again, the mixture of kind of burst and sustained damage to pair along with the Churnwalker. It'll be interesting to see how they can make that work, as we've seen the Lorelei into the Churnwalker before, and it worked quite well for the Lorelei team.
Yeah, certainly did. We'll see if that's going to be the same case here with Qlash at the helm, but the Batiste locked in means that Black Feather is going to have a difficult time sticking on this box during the fight. So that could mean that the Black Feather ends up in the jungle, but we could still see that as a carry. We'll have to see as the last pick comes on through for Qlash. But Black Feather definitely not something that we know Masili's for. Typically, he's on those ranged carries. We could even see something like a Baron coming out once again, just as that comfort pick for him.
Yeah, the option's there, but or we could see them really try and change it up and go for something like a Rhyme, but they're about to be out of time, so I'm assuming that the tournament admins will take care of ensuring that the last pick was declared, and as soon as we hear that, we will get that updated. But you know, they could go for something like the Rhyme, run the exact same composition that they lost to earlier in the day. Their only loss on the day thus far. They have been looking very strong ever since that one, when rattling off 4 wins in a row to this point, but it is going to be the Samuel. So Agony gets his Samuel. Mercedes will have to step up with yet another hero. But again, if he has put in the work to improve his ability with all these different heroes, this is suddenly a very dangerous player in the lane.
And that suddenly, it makes Qlash as a team a lot more dangerous as well. It means that they are more of a threat and something that everybody has to do a much better job of preparing for. They're currently 1-0 up in this series, and we'll see if they can turn that into a 2-0 here. But Pacani not going to let this one go without a fight. How are we expecting the start of this game to pan out here, Bacon?
I'm actually going to be curious to see how aggressive both sides are going to be in the jungle, because obviously with a Churnwalker, you can win those 2-on-2 trades very easily because you're able to get damage out onto both targets simultaneously. But on the other hand, you're going to have this Lorelei providing the extra movement speed, providing potentially a stun, depending on which ability gets skilled up first. So I think on the side of Qlash, they're probably going to start and focus on just clearing out their backs, get that level 2 before they make the rotation into the middle of the map and look for the Ancient Treant. Whereas on the side of Norm Pacani, they could maybe predict that and just go straight for the Treant and then work their way back to the jungle after that.
All right, we'll have to see. I'm very curious as well to see this Lorelei in the hands of Qlash. We've seen that they know how to play against it. They obviously did a great job. They kind of went 50-50 against the Lorelei earlier on today. I'm curious to see how they are going to react with it in their own control and how it's played, because we've seen it have varied success across the course of today so far, but we haven't actually seen that many games of Lorelei.
Yeah, we've only seen the 2, one as a captain, one as a carry, and it'll be at both times was in the hands of Raging Donuts. So it'll be interesting to see how it's going to work out this time around. But again, Agony on Samuel is a scary thing.
It certainly is, and we're about to see that come to your screens. Hashtag Vainglory8 is how you can let us know who you are supporting. Qlash are 1-0 up. Are they going to be able to turn it into a 2-0, or is it going to be Norm Pacani evening things up here? It's time to get into Game 2 of this best of 5 and pass it back over to Jaws and Dowsey.
Thank you very much, guys. Norm Pacani over on the blue, Qlash over on the reds. And one thing stood out to me in this draft, Dowsey, and it wasn't Lorelei this time. No, it was Jiraxxus and him getting his Churnwalker. He's been so devastating in the VGL with it, and now he's got it coming up against Qlash.
Yeah, Jiraxxus is a fearsome Churnwalker to play up against. Araki Zoro had the pleasure of casting the playoffs as well as some of the challenge battles leading up to today, and he was thoroughly impressed with Jiraxxus's Churnwalker. Felt like it was a North American level Churnwalker, which is obviously the highest of compliments Araki Zoro could pay to it. So pretty impressive stuff coming out of Jiraxxus. We'll have to see if he's able to live up to the hype that I have just ultimately dished out for him. He is against this Lorelei, like mentioned, Disown going to be picking up in the captain position, and I love it. Lorelei paired with the Black Feather. It's super strong. It's going to be very difficult to kill this Black Feather.
Well, indeed. In fact, as always, we do see a fight over the Elder Tree, and Jiraxxus going not fairly low, because he's going to be able to hook a couple of people down in, and he's going to be able to sustain up. Something he has over Disowned, especially in the early stages of the game. Doesn't like we're actually going to see Zoom rotating up towards the lane here. Doesn't really want to miss any CS whatsoever, and that's going to lead Mercedes to back here. So he's going to be missing out on a couple of CS, although not too many, with Luga rotating up towards. What?
I've never seen this, Jaws, where all the teams just left. They just went, you know what, Elder Triad? Nah, not today.
We don't want any.
It makes sense. It makes sense that Norm Pacani didn't want to fight over it. Samuel's level 2 is one of the best level 2s in the game. Like, it's just devastating. Malice and Verdict, Drifting Dark, it's very difficult to defeat. But I guess Qlash figured Churnwalker level 1 is also really strong, so they didn't want to fight against it.
Jiraxxus is a little bit caught up, got rooted by the Elder Treant, is actually forced to want the flask here. Agony's level 2, turned into a level 3 with that first blood, and Qlash find it.
Yeah, Jiraxxus was like, oh, I guess I'm the only one left. I'm going to try and get something off the map. Unfortunately, Churnwalker doesn't have too much damage without the aid of his allies, and so did get caught out in the end. But that was a very strange level 1/level 2 engagement, just because it didn't happen and then nothing happened, because both teams respected the level 1 ability of a Churnwalker and the level 2 ability of a Samuel too much. So surprising, to say the least. It also shows the kind of mental state that these guys are in right now. They are very, very aware of their current situation. This is an elimination match. Loser of this series is eliminated from the challenge battles. Qlash, that would mean that they were eliminated from the Vainglory8 outright, but for Norm Pisani, it would mean that they don't get a chance of promotion into the Vainglory8, which is so crucial considering that this is the last Vainglory8 of 2017. Next one will be in 2018. Who knows what's happening in 2018? There's so many cool things that could come around, especially. So everyone wants to be involved in the top tier of esports in 2018, and that's what makes these challenge battles even more intense than the previous.
It is. Luca's trying to make this jungle fairly intense, and I'll tell you why. His early aggression is going to be thwarted at least a little bit for the time being. Qlash do manage to catch an Ordain on... Oh, sorry, Luca manages to catch an Ordain onto Agony. He's going extremely low. In fact, he's just going to be able to chase him up here. Flask has been popped by Agony, but Jiraxxus and Zoom are rotating here. It was actually Luca that secured the Elder Treant, and now Agony did secure first blood, but he'll go over now to Luca. Secures himself a kill and evens the score lead 1 apiece, but still 800 gold advantage in the favour of Qlash.
Yeah, Qlash are going to be in the lead for quite some time, and Disowned doing his best to try and steal camps away, but won't quite be able to. Blackfeather, pretty good into Batiste actually. This Batiste is kind of been picked in a strange position. I guess it's because they want to try and do as much splash damage as possible with the Churnwalker, but it's not really a Luga hero. Normally he plays far more impactful heroes. And Batiste into Samuel is also a fun matchup because both heroes can play it and play against each other's weaknesses quite well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these team fights play out. Norm Pisani may have overstayed.
Yeah, nice torment actually onto Massilius to get him stunned up by the Ordain there. Luca's going extremely low, but those chains are just rippling the damage of Massilius and Agony, but it didn't seem to matter because Zoom ends up going down for the first kill in the fight. Oh, Jiraxxus with the dot damage of the chains can never be underestimated. Finds himself a kill. Agony's going to send him fairly low though, and he just steps forward, and Agony pays him some respect and, well, a little bit of disrespect, I should say, Dowsy, and just sends a mouse and verdict his way and picks up his second kill of the game. Oh, third kill of the game, sorry. Where are these kills coming from?
It's Agony Samuel, man. Cannot be underestimated. He is really good at Samuel, and you've just given him a huge lead. Not something you want to do. He can finish Dragon's Eye now at a 5-minute mark. That's super quick for a jungler. That is about a minute ahead of the curve. Pretty impressive stuff to be finishing your first tier 3 item, the most expensive one you can buy, other than obviously a Shadow Glass, which is the same price, I believe. So really impressive stuff from Agony to have that already. And the Batiste into Samuel combination, both heroes have strengths and weaknesses which both heroes can kind of play into, which is really surprising. Often you don't get such evenly matched heroes like that. Batiste, really good into Samuel if you can get into range of Samuel, because his bad mojo can outdamage the Malice and Verdicts. The healing that he gets from his Reap heroic perk can outdamage the healing that Samuel gets. Of course, the Ordain pulls him out of his drink. Oh my goodness.
That was a good torment. There's the Ordain as well to lock him in place. The Fearsome Shade's actually going to stun him up, but a Mad Mojo will kill him off, and that'll be Luga securing that kill. It's all too good when you've got Jiraxxus on your side as well. Dowsy, you can set up a stun like that.
Yeah, when you get a Shadow Glass, it's such a huge power spike, and with the Churnwalker's chain amplifying the damage, it's just doing so much work. Torment, really good synergy between Batiste and the Churnwalker, just due to the fact that Torment can actually pull people back into the Ordain wall if they are just a tad too close, so that's pretty cool as well. Samuel is pretty good into Batiste just due to the fact that he can keep him at range. You know, if Batiste can't get into range, then Batiste can't do anything. So Agony really needs to make sure he stays out of the range of the Batiste, which makes the Batiste's job kind of really to try and get onto this Blackfeather, but he's hit level 6 now, so he's going to have Rose Offensive, and he's going to get himself a Reflect Blocks eventually as well. making the Batiste into the Black Pharaoh less effective than it has been in the early game.
Jiraxis was determined to back, by the way. He was sitting in that bush for the longest time, waiting for the zone to stop harassing him. Oh, nice fish food, actually. Does stun zone up. Agony's going to come in with the Malice and Verdicts. Those chains healing Jiraxis, though, for more damage than he's actually taking, so he comes out better off in that trade. Zoom does not, however, and is actually forced to back here. Ordained does get tormented backwards, but Dasone is going to be able to walk away from that one. Don't really want to take an exchange at this point, especially when your main carry has backed off. Doom is just returning to lane now, and it's Jiraxis who's sitting on about half HP, edging on that level 6 mark. So the Trespass will be online fairly soon, but it's going to have to back more often than not, as he is fairly low on HP. You can see Agony just raining those Malice and Verdicts through, just sniping him away.
Here comes a fearsome shade, but it should just be kited up fairly easily by the side of Qlash, and unless Agony decides to face tank more bad mojos, this should just be the turret being pushed in here and then cleared out under turret fairly easily by Mercilli's. Luca's doing a lot of work, really, on this Batiste. Really landing the bad mojos that have been impactful. Trying to steal away a treant, he is able to do so. Maybe he can kill the Samuel.
Maybe he can. That Oblivion is going to come out. Luca's going to be able to sidestep it, not too much of an issue. Throws a bad mojo his way as well. But Zoom is in the lane, zooming towards Mercilli's, but the shielding coming out from him is way too much for Zoom to actually deal with, especially at this point in the game with only a poison shiv, looking towards that breaking point. But he is pushing on the lane, and that's exactly what they want to do. That turret is very low here, Doughty. However, Agony's going to come in as well. Ordained on to Mercilli's, get taken very low in that trespass. Jiraxis, this is why you don't give this guy, this hero. Triple trespass results in a turret, and with Agony and Disowned almost going down, just leads them to retreat here as well.
Yeah, just before the trespass came off, a bad mojo hit onto all three of them, and of course the implied damage just made it did so much work.
Oh,
Samuel
going low. Jiraxis with another kill torments him in and finishes him off with the dot damage. Does trade the kill, however.
Yeah, that's fine. You've taken out the jungler for a captain, and that means that he is going to not be able to get any experience or gold for this time period. That puts Luga ahead on his camps respawning, so he can catch up on the experience that he's currently behind on. Although he might have to hold on to the turret here, which should be able to allow Agony to continue his experience lead. But these fights are far closer than I think either team would really want at this point. And considering the first turret has already gone down for the side of Norm Pisani, that's pretty good for them. They're going to be really happy about that ability to kind of control the pacing of the game up until now. Doom's gone for a Poison Shiv Breaking Point build, which does fairly low damage, and due to the fact that Breaking Point now requires more damage to stack up, means that it's not going to be as effective as it was on 2.9. I think it's still okay, especially into targets that want to deal that you need to deal mortal wounds to, like a Samuel, like a Black Feather, but now he's going towards crit, which seems a little bit odd. So unless Zoom decides to go 4 damage items and gets double crit, I really don't like this build. It just doesn't have as much sustained damage as perhaps the Sora Blade would have, and kind of relies on your crits coming out, and they're on a 1/3 basis. So 1/3 of your auto attacks are going to be higher damage than a Sora Blade would be. So it's just kind of leaving things up to RNG, which kind of feels bad when the luck isn't in your favor.
Yeah, Qlash right now are getting pushed in by Norm Pisani, and one person I want to look at again is Agony. He's sitting at 420 right now, plus he's got the Eve of Harvest online, Dowsy. Sitting at 2 items, he's dishing out a large majority of damage if he can get that Dragon's Eye actually stacked up. But you mentioned it in game number 1. The fact he needs to be in fights consistently. He needs to be able to stack it up towards that 8 or 9 mark, and then if he's out of combat for maybe a couple of seconds, that drops to instantly 0. It feels like there's no real time for you to really rack that back up. Luca's going to find an engagement though. The Ordain will land, and that's going to be a trespass straight into him as well. Torment even drags him back with the fearsome shade, will send him flying. Also, those waters just slowing everybody up. Disown's just being so annoying over the other side of the wall. Fish Food does not land, but that Torment, that trespass does. The Ordain does even. I'm getting confused now. Norm Pisani now backing off rather sharp. It's just Zone doing a lot in these fights, just throwing out those pulls time and time again, just stopping the advances in these tight corridors.
Yeah, this is a really long fight here, and I think that Qlash might be able to turn it around. They really need to get Mercillies into the fight, but so far he's just been on the back line.
Oh,
wow.
No. Ordained over the wall. He used the boots to get away. Stunned up. Bad mojo. Thank you very much. And that'll be Lucas securing himself a kill, as well as that gold mine.
Really strange. Mercillies didn't want a team fight, it seemed, and Agony was kind of left on the wrong end of the stick there. He just kind of was frontlining too much damage, and eventually the Churnwalker plus Batiste combo took down the Samuel. We saw a really cool interaction though. Disowned used his ultimate to actually cleanse the Fearsome Shade purely just for the Samuel alone, and also provide that huge barrier, meaning that they could hold on to the Crucible for a little bit later. But that's just something that's kind of cool, and I noticed in that team fight that Disowned kind of recognizing that he uses ultimate instead of using a whole wide Crucible, which might be more impactful for a Trespass later on. Currently, we're just seeing the scaling game of Mercillies and Agony. They're getting to a really strong point now. Breaking point, Serpent's Mask is there for Mercillies. Agony has that Eve of Harvest and Dragon's Eye, like you mentioned, which allows him to just basically have an infinite supply of energy so he can continue using his abilities. Disowned now has 3 items online, and it's that Echo, the third one, which he's going to use for the double ultimate. So we'll have to see if Qlash decide to aggress now, because so far it's been Normpasani setting the parameters of this game, and engaging on top of Qlash and really just looking for the team fights. And that's not what you expect really against when you have a Black Feather on your team. Normally it's the Black Feather who sets the parameters by diving the box. So I'm wondering what Qlash are waiting for right now, because they've got the items to be able to take team fights, but perhaps they're showing maybe a little bit too much respect to Jaraxxus's Churnwalker.
Yeah, and a big item that Disown picked up as well is going to be that Echo. That was his third item that he did shop for. So he's going to have to, well, he's going to be able to activate 2 ultimates now. That's 2 massive shields, and along with that, a cleanse as well. Jaraxxus now trying to find something onto Mercillies. Fish Food will land. There's the Trespass. Only stuns Agony though. Fearsome Shade is going to fear him also. Just get silenced by Zoom, but it is going to get blocked by that Crucible. And now Mercillies trying to get on the back line. A beautiful Fish Food on Jaraxxus. Sends him packing for the time being, and Oblivion will put him to sleep. Amazingly well done. And now Mercillies could just rain havoc with 18, 19 breaking point stacks before he ends up going down. And now it is Zoom's game to have. Agony trapped in that Ordained with Luger. Drifting Dark coming back, was trying to kill him off. The bad mojo does go wide, but Zoom's already dealt with his teammate, and now it's a 2v1. Luger sends out the Fearsome Shade. Agony managing to sidestep it, but the Ordained does stun him up. Zoom's still trying to find his way onto Agony. Can't quite get there. It ends up being a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Normpasani.
Yeah, that was really impressive kiting from Zoom. Like mentioned, that monocle build on the Vox, 1 in 3rd chance of getting a empowered auto attack or a crit basically on your auto attack, and you're going to out damage the Sorrowblade build for the Vox. Look at what Zoom's doing. This is what I mentioned would be really good if he did. He's getting more crit. Now that he's going to have more crit on his board, this 4 damage item Vox build is super impactful. It has sustain, so he can not only survive Black Feather diving on him, but cut down the healing that the Black Feather will be generating from his Serpent's Mask. It's a lot of healing from Serpent's Mask. Not only that, Agony, when he tries to sustain through his Eve of Harvest or his Corrupted Genius, going to have his healing cut down. He has the Breaking Point, which we saw got stacked all the way up to 20 stacks, so he's able to do it without the 4th damage item, but is going to get stacked far quicker. Now he's going for double crit, and because he has double crit, his crit chance has just gone up as well, which means that his auto attacks are going to be packing a true punch. This is super reliant on Jaraxxus and Luger to keep him protected, because he's not going to build armor this game. He's going to have that Aegis for a reflex block, which will be used for the Atlas, most likely Mercillies Atlas, unless, of course, he needs to use it on a Fish Food or an Oblivion. And so Zoom is basically putting his life in Luger and Jaraxxus's hands. We know that Zoom is a formidable Vox, perhaps even better than Mercillies when it comes to this hero. It's just to be decided, I guess, in this series. But he's going to have the perfect mechanical ability if he wants to do a 4 damage Vox build in this kind of game.
Well, Fish Food lands on Zoom. Maybe this is their chance to go in. Actually, Normpasani decided to go in even after Zoom got stunned up. Ordained came out, but Mercillies was able to Rose offensive away. Dazzy, we are 16 minutes into the game, and I want you to count how many turrets have gone down, and I'll answer it for you. It's only 1. At this point, we've seen Crystal Sentry is being taken away completely. At this point, we're seeing Krakens normally started up, but there's only been one turret take. These teams just haven't found an opening because these fights have been so close. Jiraxis gets caught up by a fish food here, but the double chains will just come out. In fact, triple if he can land it. Torment onto Massilies, didn't end up hitting that one. Nice fish food actually onto two people, and then wait for it does land onto Disowned. There comes the Ordained just on the edge of it all, and the fish is already going down. Disowned ends up falling, but Massilies is already on the back line. Beautiful Atlas Pauldron slowing the attack speed of Zoom, just ends up sentencing him to death. Luca finds another beautiful Ordained onto Massilies, but he waits out the duration. Now Jiraxis is in the front line. Beautiful trespass as well to stun up two people. Can he get away? Of course he can't. Not away from Agony, who does manage to land a Malison Verdict, and now they're going to be able to break their first turret if they can find the kill onto Luga. He's trapped them in the Ordained, but he won't survive for long. However, a fearsome shade will send them flying. An ace finally for Qlash, and they break their first turret as well.
Yeah, they're going to get more turrets here, Jaws, as well, and they can get the Kraken as well. So it really just depends on what they want to prioritize. Looks like Agony wants some jungle camps for himself. You saw how quickly Vox's breaking point stacks were going up in that fight. It was like a Rona, but he put himself on the front line, and that just plays into Massili's hands. You cannot afford to be jumping towards the Black Feather. Realistically, with this Vox build, you have to be playing defensively. It's very difficult to play. It relies you to dodge every on point. It relies you to keep just out of range of the Black Feather, or else you will find yourself going down. And unfortunately, that was Zoom's demise, despite the really quick kill they got onto Disown. Kraken has now been unleashed. The Kraken will go down pretty quickly with a Batiste with this 4 damage item build. Vox, they have really good Kraken taking ability. Perhaps not the best in the game, but not too bad. And so it means that the Kraken's probably only going to just break the base, unless of course a team fight can be won quickly by Norm Pisani.
They're already damaging it before it actually reaches the turret. They're going to be able to get it at least a little bit low before it takes this first one, but Agony has got such massive sieging power with these Drifting Darks and Malison Verdicts. It's going to be hard for them to defend. Fish food onto Jiraxis will send him fairly low, although they're going to be able to back off. Kraken out about half HP. I think you're right about the turret taking. It's probably going to be able to only secure one more. Fish foods from Disowned have been extremely good this game as well, just locking up Jiraxis. Locking up is exactly what Massilies is right now. They're throwing all the ultimates out, and in fact, an Oblivion's going to come through as well. Will get blocked by that Crucible, but a Fearsome Shade will scare away Qlash for the moment. The base will be broken, and that's about all they can get for it at the time being. Both the carries are fairly low in terms of Zoom and Massilies. Are they going to be able to do anything more? Zoom goes fairly low from Agony. Kraken ends up going down, and he's just going to get tormented in. Trespass lands the stun as well, and now Luga trying to find his way into the fight actually gets stunned up by a fish food. So Disown landing yet another one will make sure they don't lose any members on the disengage.
Yeah, and they use the water wall to get Agony out of that Ordained as well. Sends the stun, so really nice moves there out of Qlash just to take down the turrets and get out without losing anything in the process. Really, really clean play from them. All in all, over that teamfight win, they get themselves 3 turrets, and so that's a huge gold swing back over to Qlash. Not quite enough to bridge the gap between them and Norm Pisani just yet, but close enough to get them there. And now we see that, 3 damage items is there for Massilies and Agony. They're really starting to pack a punch. They're really going to be able to take these team fights, and unless Norm Pisani is able to find a stun onto this Black Feather and really allow the Zoom to escape, it's going to be very difficult for him to stay alive in these team fights. Typically, Churnwalker pretty good at allowing your carry to kite, but when it's a Black Feather on the line, on the hook and sinker, he has 3 forms of ways to escape, and add the Wonder Wall, that makes it 5. Add a Crucible, that's 6 reflex blocks available for this Feather to escape CC. That is huge amounts of CC immunity available to Massilies. He just needs to have it timed right by Disowned to add those extra ones to him. And this is what's making the life of Luga and Jiraxis so hard, is because, yes, normally Vox would have a lot of protection from Batiste and Churnwalker, but when there's 6 ways to avoid CC available to you, it's just really difficult.
I don't even want to see a double water wall, Dowsy. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to look horrible. Like, most of his health bar will just be shield. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to chunk through that, as well as his Serpent's Mask healing him as well. I don't think non-Poseidon want to think about it either, to be honest with you. Kraken has spawned. Now Qlash making a move here. They're going to pop those War Treads. Vasili's finding his way onto the back line yet again. Water Wall used so he can block everything in sight. Zoom is about to half HP. The Fearsome Shade finally hits. Another Water Wall used on him for another cleanse. Disown pops his own set of War Treads to keep them rolling through the fight.
Ooh, they did.
Vasili's is already going to go down. Zoom's going to get traded, however, as he does land in the Oblivion. Agony now trying to kill Jiraxxus. He has got the 2 chains going, so he should be able to sustain past the first bit of the fight and maybe cut around this Crystal Sentry. Luca steps out of the way of the fish food. Jiraxxus still going extremely low. Agony with the Malice and Verdicts enables him to execute that Crystal Sentry for the moment. Fearsome Shade not quite dodged out of it. And if Luca can land another massive pile of bad mojo, could have killed him, but it didn't end up going down. Another Water Wall came out to save Agony in the end, and Qlash win the team fight.
Wow, that water wall is on such a short cooldown. 3 water walls used in one team fight by Disown, and all of them had impact there. So difficult to cut through that shielding. I'm pretty sure you can't stack water wall on top of water wall. If you do so, it just removes the current shielding and re-adds it back on. So it's just going to I guess, extend the cooldown. But that's what Disown wants to do. As soon as that water wall finishes, chuck another one on and just give Vasilis so much tanky stats. He already has tanky stats for himself, and they're able to take down Zoom. That is all of the damage practically lost for the side of non-Pasani. They're in a very precarious position now, non-Pasani. They need to find a team fight win. They need to find an engagement that works for them. Zoom's a little bit up forward. Has to be very careful he doesn't get caught out here. Should be okay. Doesn't look like Qlash are going to push too deep into the enemy jungle. This is the chance for Qlash to put 2 on the board and really take away non-Pasani's chances. Oh, look at that. Splashdown speeds up minions. I want to see, does it speed up the Kraken on? No, Disown's not going to try it. I know it speeds up your minions, and it speeds up your Crystal Sentry as well. As you can see, the minions getting a little boost there. Just don't know if it speeds up the Kraken. Would be kind of crazy. Shout out to the Warhorn days.
Well, it would be fairly OP. I mean, although Kraken's going to step on it.
It does.
Yeah, did it?
I think
Did it
so.
go faster? I don't know, man. He put like 1 foot on it. If anything, he just had 1 foot going faster. Jiraxxus is going to be able to torment. There's the wait for it as well, but it didn't really hit anybody. He did trespass in, and it just gets blocked by the Crucible. That's 1 massive ultimate down. Doesn't even have an Echo, so they are free to engage now. Water Wall used on Vasilis to get him back in. There's half his health bar covered in shielding down. He's almost immortal. Luca going down extremely low. Crucible's going to come out, and that's a massive Fearsome Shade to knock Disowned away. Kraken still knocking on those turrets. The second one is going to fall. Agony kiting back as fast as he can, but he only needs to buy time at this point. Vasilis is on the Crystal, and that'll be a 2-0 going to Qlash and match point.
Match point for them, and they are showing up here, really taking it to non-Pasani. Non-Pasani get, the redemption kills, just showing that they can find kills after the main Crystal's dead, but it doesn't matter. It means Qlash has taken the lead, and it's such a devastating composition to go against this Lorelei with a assassin-like, melee-like hyper carry of the Black Feather. Really hard to play against with Agony supporting in the backline. Qlash just had the jack of all trades composition, which they won with in their first games against Raging Donuts. 1 away, Jaws, from getting back into a promotional match to the Vainglory8, securing their spot. We'll have to see if they're able to do it.
Qlash are determined to run the gauntlet, and they are putting up some impressive figures as well. Agony coming back on his famous Samuel 9, 4, and 2. Triple damage Giants. He was untouchable in that game. We got 2 beautiful analysts, though, over on the desk that can break down the Qlash win even further.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, Agony Samuel coming on through once again, and the Lorelei captain coming out strong in this one. Qlash now 2-0 up in this series. That is a scary place to be as their opponent, because now just a singular game away from taking this entire series and continuing to push on forwards. Qlash are looking great right now.
Yeah, they really are. And I mean, we've always talked about, potentially banning the Vox away from Vasilis, trying to get him on a less comfortable hero. Maybe start banning away the Samuel from Agony, because it has been phenomenal all season long, but especially today. He has just been putting in work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about how Qlash played this game as well, because what we've been seeing from them across the course of today so far was them waiting until the late game, allowing a lot of the early game to go to their opponents, and then coming into things. But if we take a look at our first couple of replays, you could see that Qlash came out of the gate swinging. This time, they were the ones being aggressive. They were the ones making plays happen.
Yeah, and part of it was in response. to what their opponents were trying to do. Like, this aggressive play that we're seeing here was in response to Churnwalker trying to make an early play to steal away a jungle camp, which honestly, Churnwalker should not be doing that kind of play on his own. He doesn't have great jungle clear or anything like that, so it was a little bit strange to see. But then moving up into the lane, you can see they're still just being aggressive, using the Samuel and the early advantages that he's able to get to find themselves with opportunities to get these kills and to set up themselves up for a mid to late game power spike.
Absolutely. But in terms of kills and things, this was not a one-sided game at all. And we saw that Pacani were really taking it to Qlash. I mean, the final scoreline was 11-11 in the end, but we saw towards the mid stages of the game, a double kill came through for Pacani, and this was them really starting to take control of the fights just a little bit. And it was very much back and forth, and across the entire game, the scoreline was very rarely far from each other.
Yeah, the kills were always very similar to each other, and for a time, it looked like Normpasani were the ones that were getting the advantage. They were able to push in. They took the turret first, and then they were able to find this fight after a great job of avoiding the Oblivion, catching them all out of position. They were able to turn this one back around, use this Vox to just get so much damage scaled up. Once he hits this 20 breaking point stacks, it's very difficult for him to get away. But even in this situation, it's still a great job by Qlash and especially Agony to avoid the ace, to make sure that they, when they saw that the Vox was getting stacked up and was doing a ton of damage, they split as a team to make sure that they wouldn't be able to chase down both targets for the kills.
And honestly, all the way throughout this game, we saw that these fights were very long, very drawn out, but also these, like, Agony was the carry of that game. He was the one putting up the big numbers, but actually, even in the very late game fights that we saw towards the end of the game, he was struggling to actually finish these targets off, which is kind of classic Samuel behavior, right? That's one of the flaws of Samuel that we always see. And it's difficult to get yourself in a situation where you can finish those targets off. We saw a couple more aces towards the later stages of the game, and obviously Qlash putting their best foot forward here, and this was the point where they started to equalize things.
Yeah, the Samuel is great in the team fight scenarios. Once you get into sort of the one-on-one type of situations, that's where he can definitely fall off because you have to be so accurate. And again, Normpasani, they were able to start these fights off by getting kills, but then all of a sudden Agony, a great Oblivion here, just puts the Churnwalker to sleep and allows them to focus down their targets properly, forces then Batiste to have to move away from his captain, and from that point on, once the sleep wore off, it was an easy focus down, and then they finally start to push these turrets. Again, even though they were aggressive, they had fallen behind by a fair bit, and we're still playing for this late game. But once again, the late game team fighting, as we just saw in that replay, they feel like they are a superior team when it comes to the 3-on-3 play.
And you have to bear in mind that Qlash lost the first player in that fight, but then the longer these fights goes on, the Samuel can just ramp up so much and just push on forward. We can take a look at the last fight of the game as well, as Qlash managed to round this one out to turn it into a 2-0 lead during the series. And Qlash, they're the only team that actually loses a player during this fight, but with the Kraken pushing, it didn't matter.
Yeah, and this is just the strength of the Kraken, especially later in these games. The fact that they don't even get a kill on the final push, but are able to close things out is so impressive because their positioning throughout this fight, their ability to stay alive for so long, their opponents, they don't really know what to focus. They're trying to choose between focusing Kraken or trying to force the team fight there. And in the end, they waited too long to make that decision. And again, credit to Qlash recognizing, saying, you know what? If you're going to delay, if you're going to just kind of fool around with what you're trying to do and not be decisive about it, we'll just take the objectives. We'll be the decisive ones and say, we don't need a team fight. We can just end the game with the objective damage that we have.
Now, so far in the drafts across the course of today, we've not really seen teams focusing on individual players. We've seen general draft coming out, teams trying to focus on their own strategy. Do we need to start to see Agony focused by the bans here coming out from Normpasani? Because it feels like Agony is able to just take over games.
The question is, if you try and do that, what are you going to focus down? Because you can take away the Samuel, you can then look towards the rest of his hero pool, but he has so many other heroes that he can play at that level. I do think taking the Samuel off the board in the second ban rotation will be very smart for Normpasani, but it is a situation where, Agony is still going to get his hands on something that he's going to be comfortable with, but you do just want to take away that top pick, and that, I think, will be a key for Normpasani going into this game.
Well, Arden will be the first pick coming out from Qlash. That's 3 captains off the board already. Wouldn't be surprised to see Norm actually locking in their own as well, just to make sure it doesn't get banned out, because that captain pool can get thinned out awfully quickly. And we'll see where they choose to go with this on. Obviously, things like the Vox also kind of a fine first pick just because it's such a safe pick and so versatile in these games. It's not something that really limits the rest of your composition.
Yeah, they could look for the Vox, but then they would have to worry about the potential Baron still coming through and things of that nature, of the Black Feather still being available. They are going to go for the Lorelei, so still putting some faith in the Lorelei pickup. We'll see how things go with her on the other side of the line. We've been seeing a lot of Lorelei now suddenly in these last few games. A lot of teams starting to really try and make her work, but again, we talked about it a little bit after the first series of the game, and is this too much of a stretch going into the third game of the series when you're down 2-0? I feel like it might be, because you haven't had the same amount of time with this Lorelei as you have had with other heroes. I feel like it might be just too much for them in such an important game.
I'll have to see. Obviously, Lorelei has had mixed success across the course of today. We'll see where they go with this one. Vox will be locked in alongside it, but the Black Feather and the Cruel were banned away. Now Qlash have to decide where they want to go. Obviously, Masili still has that Baron pick available to him if that's where he wants to go, but we've seen him playing Black Feather as well. That was obviously banned, but it means that there's that different style of carry available to him.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing something like a Baron Samuel come out for the side of Qlash. I think that just get them on these really strong picks that they've shown. They do take the Baron. They could still go a different direction with this final pick, but I think Samuel, it's a safe pick going into both the Lorelei and the Vox. Obviously, you're not going to really be under fire and under too much threat from either of those two either. You know, they're not really heavy dive heroes on the side of Norm Pacani, so the Baron should be pretty safe. The only reason I could see them not going for something like the Samuel is if they want something that can help protect the Baron a little bit better, but I think with what is shown on their opponent's side of the draft board, a Samuel pick would be great for them right here.
We'll have to see if Samuel is something they opt to go for. Taking their time on this pick, they know that there's quite a lot of pressure on this pick. They have to round out their composition, but they are in a comfortable position. However, you want to finish off the series, right? You want to get that 3-0, and they are going to go with the Batiste in the end for Agony. So a fairly similar playstyle to Samuel to some extent. He wants those long, drawn-out fights, but definitely heavy disengage.
A similar playstyle, but again, just has that little bit of extra protection for the Baron. If someone does try and dive through the front lines and get onto the Baron, you can use the Ordained, you can use the Fearsome Shades to prevent them from being able to reach their target. So it makes a lot of sense still, and it's, like you said, it's something that we've seen him run. It's something that is a similar play style overall to the Samuel pick as well. And now Norm Pacani, they're going to have their work cut out from them regardless of what this last pick is. They do opt for the Alpha, though.
Yeah, so that Alpha going to come on through. It's something we hadn't been seeing just yet across the course of the Vainglory, or across the course of Challenge Battles, sorry. But we are now going to see that coming out from Norm Pacani. And we're going to see that alongside a Lorelei as well. I feel like Lorelei's kit as a captain really helps out an Alpha and what Alpha actually wants to achieve.
Yeah, that extra movement speed can do so much work for an Alpha. And we saw Alpha being very strong in Update 2.9 given the right circumstances. And being able to dive onto the Baron, this is going to be a crucial fact for her. And can they get enough damage onto the Baron, though, is the issue that I think is going to have to be for Norm Pacani. Is can they do enough damage before Baron returns fire? Because the Alpha isn't always the most durable when it comes to getting into the thick of things against someone like a Baron.
It definitely feels like it feels to me like Norm have to be aggressive in this early game and really abuse the lack of power that Baron will have to start things off here.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to be making the aggressive plays. They need to be trying to shut this Baron down and prevent it from going late. We've already know Qlash, once it gets late, they are dominant against these other teams that we've been seeing. And if this goes late with a Baron, no less, it's going to be a very difficult matchup.
Well, we'll see how this one's going to pan out. It's time to get on into Game 3. It's 2-0 so far to Qlash, but Norm Pacani aren't out just yet. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know whether you want that reverse sweep to come on through, but it's too early to call that one just yet. It's time to pass it over to Jaws and Dowsy and get into game number 3.
Thanks, guys. Once again, game number 3 underway. Qlash over on the blue. We have Norm Pacani over on the red. And one specific bit of information Tasty said there was if Qlash can get it to late, Baron's going to destroy people. That was a roundabout what he said, Dowsy. I just like using the word destroy people. But Norm Pacani, I mean, they kind of struggled in that instance. When it gets to late game, their team fights are fairly scrappy. They seem to know what they're doing. But if they don't find the initial pick, it's very hard for them to actually re-engage and kind of know what to do off the back of it. Team Qlash, on the other hand, are the exact opposite. Basilis gets late. He knows where to position. He knows how to put out the damage, and you can just rely on him on this Baron.
Certainly can, and he has a composition that's going to just keep him safe and sound. It's going to be very difficult for Norm Pacani to actually be able to kill this Baron, but I said that in game 1, and they managed to do it many, many times, very surprisingly. Level 1 power spike for Alpha is really strong. I wouldn't be surprised if Qlash decide to back off this Elder Treant, because Luger should be able to secure it. Does actually go over to the side of Qlash, but here comes the fight.
Luger, prime directive in, hits 2 people, but Masili's happy to take the trade. He did take the Elder Treant as well, so he does receive the healing. Fish Food ends up missing also, but there's not too much chase on the side of Qlash, especially this early on in the game. Hey, they're not scared of a level 1 Alpha. Are you kidding me? Masili's is like, I'll just take it on the shoulder. I got some healing from the Elder Treant.
Yeah, no, they weren't quite able to find the damage they wanted onto the Elder Treant, and you know, if the Elder Treant had gone over to Norm Pacani, then they would have guaranteed chased into the jungle there. It's just the fact that it went over to Masilis. They realized that he was going to be healing throughout the entirety of the fight. Makes things very difficult. This composition drafted by Qlash, I already said it's really clever just due to the fact that it has so much protection for the Baron. Well, think about the matchups that we got here. Vox into Baron, really hard to play because Vox has one of the shortest ranges in the game. Baron has the longest range, so it makes the Vox into Baron really difficult. Alpha into Baptiste, really difficult to play because Baptiste ordains stop up the Alpha and stop her from doing what she wants, can really just put a damper in Alpha's day. The Fearsome Shade as well can make her drop stacks on her core charge as well as her Dragon's Eye, so Baptiste pretty good into Alpha. The only matchup that we haven't really got the data on is of course this Lorelei into Arden, but it's a Treant secured by the Alpha. I wonder if they look for a fight.
Luger takes it. He can't look for a fight when an ordains on him. Just what you were just saying, Dazzy. Your point perfectly illustrated. Good luck trying to actually attack Agony when you're stuck in that. He does secure the Elder Treant though, so at least he'll get one on the board for his team. Zoom got pushed in, however, and Masilis is going to back to get his first couple of key items here. Bit of extra weapon power with a set of boots, and now he is all good to basically farm to 20 minutes and then start 2-hitting people.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a dangerous time when this Baron is online. Storyblade, of course, going to be finished within the next minute or 2. That's pretty significant power spike for Baron. The jump jets, he can really output a lot of hurt. Luger, though, he's going to be rushing towards his aftershock and really trying to make something happen. Remember what we said at the beginning of this series, Norm Pacani loved playing through the jungle here and really just dominating the jungle matchup. Luger can't really do that this game just due to the fact that Alpha not great into Baptiste. So he's going to have to try and find impact elsewhere, and of course the lane would be perfect this game. Once he gets his aftershock level 6, he can really look to try and put some damage onto this Baron and force him out. But we'll have to see if he's able to do that. He is coming up looking for a fight.
Yeah, it does throw out the bad mojo. The Ordained does trap him in place. He does miss completely, and Masili's taking a brunt of that damage. Now Luger trying to get on the back. Prime directive in, couldn't quite find the damage and takes a lot in return. Zoom and Jiraxis kind of on the sidelines here as Agony just throws in bad mojo after bad mojo after bad mojo. Their chunking potential is so big, and the sustain as well from their flasks just kept them in that fight. Luger and Agony having a little 1v1, but the Treant ones are actually secured by Luger, so we will get a bit of sustain. Prime directive landed onto Agony as well, but Sound will be there to help with the disengage.
Yeah, no, that's really unfortunate. If Luger hit that prime directive, then Masili's disengaging the fight, but since the big burst had already been used and unfortunately split the team, nothing to stop them. This turret's going to go really low. It looks like they want to secure it. The jump jets forward, double tack, boom, turret dead. First one over towards Qlash, and that's not a good start to Norm Pacani's attempts of shutting down the Baron. He's one lane, and so now all he has to do is go back, pick up a Sorrow Blade, and look for his second tier 3 item. We'll have to see what he decides to go for. Looking like he's just going to fill his inventory with damage, 2 weapon blades and a crit item. So looking like a most likely going to be what is a monocle. Could go towards the tension bow, but I think monocle probably more likely.
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. He wants that crit potential. Obviously, we all are fond of memories, Dowsy, whether it's in the VG8, VGL, VIS, solo queue, normal queue games, whatever. Barons jumping forwards, hitting you with 2 hit rockets, hitting 700 damage each, and then wondering where half your health bar's gone. So it makes a lot of sense in that regard. Alpha finally picked up her aftershock here, but like you said, maybe a little bit behind the curve in that regard, because that turret's already gone down. She doesn't have these avenues now to get into these fights, and now it's all up to Mercedes just to farm up even. Perfect time, and she's going to get taken out from first blood, and that'll go over to Mercedes.
Yeah, that's unfortunate positioning. I just remembered an interaction that is probably worth noting now before level 6 is hit for Jiraxis. I'm almost certain he use his water wall on Alpha while she's rebooting. So keep that in mind. He can give her extra shielding while she is rebooting and stop her from going down in a reboot protocol. I'm pretty sure that happened to me in a ranked game, and I flipped my iPad because I was so annoyed that was possible. But we'll just have to make sure that I'm pretty sure it happened.
That's got to be the most frustrating thing, right? You're like, yeah, I'm going to kill her, woo! And then it's like, oh, look at that massive shield. Zoom's a little bit caught out here, though. But the water wall, luckily, Jirax is just hit level 6, walking out Zoom alive. Doesn't have his own reflex block just yet, but I can imagine he's going to go by one of those rather soonish.
Yeah, no, reflex block, super important against Batiste. Everyone needs one. Zoom needs one. Jiraxis needs a Crucible. Luga needs a reflex block. I would put that at the utmost of importance because Gauntlet is ready to go. You really need to get onto this Baron.
Oh, Luga has found his way on it, though. Nice stun as well. Jiraxis coming through that seems so easy.
Impressive stuff.
Oh, thank you very much for bearing with us, guys. We are back into the game. There's a brief pause kicked in, but we are all ready and raring to go, Dowsy. That was a beautiful call into the Fist of Shade, and that landed Qlash, a double kill.
Yeah, no, technical difficulties on our end. We do apologize for that. But the players have been sitting here very patiently after the team fight ended, so nothing has been affected as far as their, gameplay or anything interfered in, which is perfect. And what a team fight coming out of Qlash. Quick recap for those who perhaps missed it due to the poor connection that we experienced just into that team fight. Beautiful Fearsome Shade into the Gauntlet Wall, just deleted both Zoom and Luger. Holy moly! Oh. That was a 1200 damage, 100! Oh dear. Hello Baron, I see you.
Yeah. I mean, I told you, as soon as that Baron gets online, we've all had nightmares, and Zoom's going to have them this evening. Mercillius ends up executing the turret with the ion cannon. That'll be Qlash taking another one off the board. They want another chance to the VG8, Dowsy. They are not done just yet. They're going to take the Crystal Sentry as well. Mercedes going to jets forward. Another Gauntlet comes down. Luger's caught out completely. Ordain is going to hold him in place for the time being, but Agony's going to go fairly low as well. There's the Termination Protocol, but Mercedes just dodged out of it. He's going to be able to find the execution kill onto Luger, but not quite just yet, as the fishes do come up and the fish food does land, but is enough fish food to actually feed Luger? I don't think it is. Mercedes just dip diving, dodging around. Zoom finally finds the kill. The Termination Protocol comes in, and Agony's going to fall as well. Norm Pacani hang in the team fight with the skin of their teeth. Isowned gets another prime directed to the face and is trying to escape, but Norm Pacani come back with a vengeance.
Ace. How is that even possible? Zoom spent the majority of that team fight circling the jungle around the doubles and the healing camp, waiting, hoping that Luger could do enough damage that he would be able to come in and finish off with a couple of auto attacks. That was insane coordination coming out of Jiraxis and Luger just single-handedly, with the help of Jiraxis, won that team fight. Zoom's build here is going to spike a lot of discussion. Sora Blade, Tornado Trigger, I bet he gets himself a monocle next. Full crit, trying to do as much damage possible.
Called out, but it turns out Luger might be the one caught. Ion Cannon's going to be there. Water Wall, Termination Protocol. Oh, Prime Directive narrowly avoided. He's trapped in the Ordain, but this time they got enough damage. Mercillius finds the kill. He sinks into the pool of water that Jiraxis left behind, and that is another gold mine for Qlash.
Yeah, Zoom wasn't there. I thought Zoom may have been lurking in the shadows, and that would have been a team fight that they could have won, potentially, because of Luger's great ability to just win team fights somehow. This is going to be an attempt at a steal with a fish food. Comes through.
Immense gold payout.
So close. I thought I got really excited.
Look at Zoom. Zoom's pushed all the way up. Turret's
going to get the turret as well. Alrighty then, gold miner for turret. Thank you very much. Can they stop the recall? Mercillius, yes he can. Double 400 rocket. Yeah, Zoom is going to fall down here.
Look at the damage he's doing though.
Mercillius, game of heart leapt a little bit there, and I'm sure his did as well. Qlash do find the kill and the gold miner, but they do sacrifice a turret for it. So turret lead actually evened up now, Dowsy.
Man, Zoom's initiative to go this crazy Vox build is really sparking my interest here, because it makes so much sense. Sora Blade into a Tornado Trigger gives him the attack speed that Vox wants, and then you get a Monocle online, double crit, he just jumps on top. With the Sora Blade on top, he's basically playing a form of Ringo as Vox, basically. You know, he's just going a standard Ringo build, but a Vox. But it makes so much sense in this scenario because of the fact that Baron, it needs to do as much damage to him as possible. Baron won't build armor, so the crit plus high weapon power value of the Sora Blade is going to actually allow Zoom to do damage if he gets on top of the Baron. And so this, paired with the fact that Luger is going to become incredibly tanky, now has Dragon's Eye as well to do lots of damage, Jaws. There might actually be a chance for them to win these team fights. Wonder Wall needs to get the Echo. He has the Echo, so there's Echo available for the double Wonder Walls as well. I actually think Norm Pacani can take team fights.
Well, Crystal Sentry being started up here, but Masilis gets caught in that fish food. Gauntlet comes down for the protection. He's going to use that rocket to get out of the way. Luger takes a massive crit to the back. Termination Protocol is going to come down, but so does the Ion Cannon. It lands straight on top of him, but another fish food will stun him up. They finally kill him. Agony finishes him off with a bad mojo. Locks Drax is in place with the Ordain as he just follows down Zoom. Masilis dashes over the wall. A double rocket finishes him off. Masilis is unstoppable. 4-1 on this Baron. Qlash, they want to end the series right here, right now, with no comeback from Norm Pacani.
Yeah, the tier 3 armor hasn't been completed yet for any members of Norm Pacani, and that is super important if they want to be able to win fights. Not to mention they need the Aegis for the extra health as well. They need War Treads for the health as well, so they can tank up just a couple more of these rockets. Without these defensive items, Norm Pacani are going to very much struggle to win team fights, but once they get their tier 3 builds completed, there is a glimmer of hope. It is all going to be on Zoom and Luger coordinating with the help of Draxus to find those team fight wins for themselves. 14 and 11 seconds. It means that Kraken is just around the corner. Draxus' ability to land these fish foods has been pretty impressive so far onto the Baron. He's going to have to do a little bit more than that if they want to be able to take down Masilis.
He can land the chains, he can land the fish food. As I say, that one goes wide, so we'll ignore that one, Draxus. No worries, pal. Now Masilis, he's at that full build at the moment, apart from those tier 3 boosts. Agony traps one in the Ordain, and that's what he's Zoom dashing for, but Masilis dashes over the... Oh, that fearsome shade just deletes him along with a couple of rockets from Masilis. Draxus gets chased down as well, and that'll be a double for Agony. He's going to use those boosts to chase after Luger here. That's got Ordained off for cooldown in a couple of seconds. Here comes Crystal Sentry. He gets locked in place, gives him the little emote as well as he just sickles him to death. Termination Protocol there, a big 900 chunk of damage, but Luger should end up falling. Does get back up, a core charge onto Masilis, but he's got all the protection in the world with the Arden. Qlash finds the ace.
Yeah, and that was just really poor decision making from Norm Pacani to attempt to take down the Batiste. They forgot that it's not about the Batiste, it's all about the Baron. Of course, Agony is doing a lot of work. He has 3 damage items, but it's all Masilis. He is the man that you need to take down these team fights, and if it's not him going down, then it's no one. Draxus not using the Fountain, not using a Wonder Wall, and he's got himself caught out. Good fish food will keep himself alive for now, and that means that they do get a chance to actually defend this Kraken. But Norm Pacani, this is their last chance. They lose this next team fight, it is game over, and their chances of Vainglory8 are completely eliminated.
What a Qlash have shown up today. This team is battling through the gauntlet right now, and Norm Pacani are not a team to mess with either, Dowsy. They look so formidable, and a team that was rather understated in the VGL, taking the #1 seed and now getting beaten out by Qlash. And more importantly, Masilis and Agony, who just proved to teams that there can be a double carry on the roster as well. Both of them really showing up in this game. 6-1 on Agony, 4-1 Masilis, equally carrying the weight. Zoom is just taken half his HP with 1 rocket. There comes the gauntlet, but they've already found their save onto Masilis. That fearsome shade is going to send Luger and Zoom packing, but Masilis used that rocket leap straight over the wall. Perfect positioning to start off this engagement. Leaves time for the Kraken to actually take one of the turrets.
It's so hard for Norm Pacani to do anything, Jaws, due to the fact that this Baron is too far ahead. He takes down Vox. These crystal turrets are falling
as well. Qlash is going to take the crystal. A 3-0 for them, and Norm Pacani's hopes of getting into the VG8 are dashed. Qlash will continue on and hopefully regain their chance to get back in the VG8. That is what their sights are firmly set on now. With a 3-0 like that, you got to be fair for teams like Team Queso who have to face these monsters later on.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive stuff from Qlash to come on through and take down Norm Pacani in such a dominant style, to take down Raging Donuts in fairly dominant fashion as well. After being knocked down into this elimination bracket by Queso, they have realized that they want to remain in the European Vainglory8, and they fought the gauntlet to do so, Jaws. Now, they're going to be awaiting one of the losers of tomorrow's promotion game to see if they can make it there. A true gauntlet run. Qlash have done it in dominant style.
What an incredible game for them, and a 3-0 as well, really making a stand and a name for themselves. We're going to throw it over to the desk one final time as they can break down the Qlash series win.
Incredible stuff coming out from Qlash here. A 3-0 victory in the end against the first seed coming out of Challengers. This is truly a stonker of a performance, and it has to be said, all three of the players on Qlash have stepped up today and just look stronger and stronger with each and every game.
Yeah, they took that one game to warm up, like we said, and just have not looked back since. They haven't dropped a game since the very first one of the day. Definitely a very impressive performance coming out of Qlash, looking like they really want to keep that spot in the Vainglory8.
Yeah, absolutely. Qlash absolutely stepping up, and we'll see if they can continue that trend tomorrow. Let's take a look at some of the moments from this game, though, starting at around 9 minutes, and it was actually Pacani that started things off strong and managed to get themselves an ace hit.
Yeah, I mean, they were able to, again, find that early kills against the members of Qlash, and this is kind of like the trend, again, where Qlash doesn't look quite as strong in the early game as they do in the late game. You know, they were already 3 kills up, but then the members of Norm Pacani able to find this team fight, chasing down the Baron and just narrowly keeping their allies alive, getting themselves the ace, but they weren't really able to capitalize off of this. They weren't really able to continue to apply pressure off this one, and this was them answering pressure that Qlash was trying to put out. So a great turnaround there, but Qlash did not let that deter them whatsoever.
Yeah, it was, once again, it was their opponent's proactivity rather than their own. And now the next fight, after that one, it was kind of all about Qlash for the rest of the game. This was a fairly one-sided one here, and this is an ace coming through that came out of Qlash. And it was mostly Agony, it has to be said, that was leading the charge here.
Yeah, Agony just played an absolutely incredible series. Didn't really seem to matter which hero he was playing. He put on an incredible performance, just chasing that opponent, using the boots forward, knowing that's just alpha left, and saying, you know what, we can start this fight, we can finish this fight now as well. And just going in, forcing out the termination protocol, focusing the targets properly, saying, you know what, we're not going to be able to finish her off, take the sentry down while we're here as well, and then finish off the kill when she reboots. Excellent work from the members of Qlash all across the board.
Yeah, fantastic stuff coming out from them, and they went on to continue to end out the game and end out the series as well. And we could see the final team fight that came on through from them after they managed to grab themselves a Kraken. But honestly, it feels like the longer we've watched Qlash here today, the stronger and stronger they have felt as a team.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's kind of been true of the entire season, where they looked better and better towards the end of the season. Now they're looking even stronger. Obviously, they are up against challenger teams today, but they have looked much better than what we have seen throughout the regular season. And once you get to this late game point, once you have 4 offensive items on a Baron, there's just no opportunities for Norm Pacani to get onto Baron. I mean, he has almost no defense, just tier 2 boots and a reflex block. That's it